Devaraja Mudaliar. Once, a stranger stood in front of Bhagavan in the old hall. Bhagavan instantly recognized him and introduced him to everyone, saying, "He had come 20 years ago when we were staying up on the hill." When Murunganar told me about this, I immediately asked him, "Does this mean that Bhagavan had a phenomenal memory?" And Murunganar countered with another question, "Does a mirror make an effort to reflect an image? In the presence of a Jnani, everything is automatically revealed. There is no time delay or any other process in an interaction that a Jnani has with a person." Bhagavan, being a Jnani, could effortlessly cognize whoever stood before him. Then he hurriedly told me, "Do not mistake this for thought reading or clairvoyance. These belong to the realm of the mind. A realized sage is beyond the mind. He is in the spiritual state, Sahaja Samadhi. That perfect spiritual state may include the apparitions of body and the mind, not vice versa." Bhagavan himself has once said, "A Jnani is like a mirror. Whatever is placed before it will be reflected exactly as it is." Every devotee engaged with Bhagavan played a different role by the dictates of their nature, and Bhagavan responded similarly. For instance, Murunganar saw Bhagavan as Lord Shiva, and Bhagavan treated him like Saint Manakashavara, a surrendered poet devotee of Lord Shiva, who lived several centuries ago. Major Chadwick looked upon Bhagavan as the mother. Professor G.V. Subramaya could treat Bhagavan as the father. And my own grandfather, Chinnaswamy, saw Guru and God in Bhagavan. At the same time, there was no difference in Bhagavan's loving embrace for each devotee. There was yet another devotee with a unique personality. His approach to Bhagavan was like that of a child or a baby crawling towards his parents, pure innocence. He was Devaraja Mudaliar, the A standing for Arcot before his name is most often left off. But this just notes the place he hailed from. In the core of his heart, and also when he addressed Bhagavan or wrote letters to him, he always called Bhagavan Amma Appa, a Tamil word for mother, father. Mudaliar styled himself as Ramana Se, the child of Ramana. Bhagavan too treated him like a baby. Some of the senior devotees did not approve of Devaraja Mudaliar because of his childish, though innocent, approach. Yet Mudaliar was an embodiment of surrender. Bhagavan has said, "There are two ways to realize the truth. Ask, 'Who am I?' and trace the I, the ego, to its source, the self, and allow it to dissolve. A second way is to surrender the me, that is the ego, to the Supreme, which is the state of I am within you." Mudalayar's life also exemplifies another teaching of Bhagavan, which says, "The devotee's effort and the Guru's grace are synonymous and simultaneous. There is no time lag there. When one makes an effort, simultaneously grace is activated. The seeker's effort and God's grace are synonymous." In fact, Bhagavan has emphasized that effort itself is only because of grace. Devaraja Mudaliar was associated with Bhagavan for almost 50 years. It is an association that is perhaps longer than any that the other devotees enjoyed. In 1900, 4 years after Bhagavan came to Arunachala, hundreds of people came to Tiruvannamalai for the Karthikai Deepam festival. Devaraja Mudaliar was among these present. Though Bhagavan at that time was completely absorbed in the self and sat with eyes closed, his grace was upon Mudaliar. Out of the hundreds of people there, it was Mudaliar who was captivated by the young Swami. By 1914, when he visited Arunachala again, he had already become a reputed lawyer in Chittoor. Bhagavan was now living in Virupaksha cave. Traveling in those days was very tedious. Driven by his devotion, Mudaliar came to Tiruvannamalai again in 1917. Bhagavan was then in Skanda Ashram. He experienced Bhagavan's graciousness and felt that he should surrender and offer his prayers to him. He returned fully convinced that here was a master to whom he should pray. He prayed inwardly and never orally. Between 1918 and 1922, he could not visit Bhagavan due to professional pressures. In 1922, he traveled again to Tiruvannamalai. Bhagavan was now in the early days of Ramanasramam, which at that time consisted of only a few humble huts. He prostrated before Bhagavan, while another ardent devotee, Ramaswamy Pillai, was singing the Tiru Pugas, a Tamil song, in a stentorian voice that drowned out the steady sound of the torrential rain. At lunchtime, there were 4 or 5 people present. Bhagavan turned to Mudaliar and said, "We follow a particular pattern of eating here. If you are used to something different, you are free to eat it." Mudaliar had brought with him some chapatis made with wheat. Bhagavan's attention melted him. He joined in and enjoyed a meal with the others, forgetting the chapatis. He started coming to Bhagavan more regularly and posing more and more questions. One of the important things that he shared with me was that he had been an atheist. He never believed in God, disliked going to temples, and had a deep disdain for rituals. In contrast, all the other devotees were devoutly religious, visited temples, and talked about God. In 1922, he put his views before Bhagavan, and the Master said, "It is all right. There is nothing wrong with that. God is always within you. Turn your mind inward and meditate on awareness. That is sufficient."